Italian Post Impressionism Part 3, looking particularly at colour mixing. And before I get into that, I'd just like to say photographs of your artworks. Some of you have been very good at sending them, and some of you not so good. But I'm looking forward to seeing all the photos of the artworks in progress, not just finished. We've been talking about divisionism in this subject, in this painting by Polinio Nomellini, and his other sort of divisionist paintings. And the discipline there is all about mixing colours, mixing colour separately on the palette. So when it comes to green, I want a yellow green, which will be mostly yellow and a little bit of blue, and that's one brush. I want to make a sort of mid-green that has more blue in it and is less yellow, something like that. And I'm going to make a deeper green, which is, still start with yellow because it's the weaker colour of the two, but this time I'm going to add more blue to the mix, more blue, and make it a deeper, richer green. So green maybe prevails in these paintings. If you're painting from your own subject in your garden, perhaps green is the most common colour. That's the yellow green. That's the sort of slightly greener green, blue green, and this one is a little bit deeper still. And what Nomellini did was to mix another colour, sort of not really related, but put a pale blue perhaps next to the green, so you get a blue colour like that. And with these other three colours, you might also have white, a whitish yellow. So to paint grass, Nomellini has got little dabs of all those colours. He's got some little dabs of whitish yellow, something like that, little dabs, and some of pale blue, or blue, and also of yellow-green, building up, not blended but left as separate marks. Then perhaps another green. If you're working wet into wet, these will get muddled up into each other. And that's how Nomellini's painting foliage and vegetation. So in this painting, the background of all these plants and textures is made of little dabs of paint, little bits of yellow, quite a few dabs of white, opaque white, something like this, going onto the surface. And then he's drawn, because it's not just making dabs, but he's drawn with the brush into some description of plant-like forms. So if we're observing this particular painting, then you're looking for these differences in description. That there are these little blue marks, they're not exactly dots, they're not exactly uniform, but they do describe a sort of impression of foliage back here. It's a sort of bluish colour according to this print. If I switch brushes and look for this darker green, so there's a little bit of description of, say, a yucca or a particular sort of plant here. is built up. Darker green. So nowhere in this image is there a layer of flat colour. Wasn't quite right. Pale blue is used a fair bit in this. He's used pale blue in the child's white dress. So white, ultramarine plus white makes this light pale blue, and he's painted into the folds in the dress. And he's also, I think, trying to make an illusion of dapple sunlight. So that's what's any white fabric is reflecting the blue sky in the shadow. So shadow absorbs light from the sky. Shadow is where light isn't. So all of this lot is in shadow, little dabs. And that is, it's a different way of painting, so it means building up gradually one layer of dabbing marks. So this applies to any surface. It's not really whether it's a garment or a plant or a tree. Everything is pretty much treated in the same way in Nomellini's, in this method, Nomellini's method, and with Divisionism. So we've got a few other bits of light coming out of this, and to create light, I think that this is just titanium white with a little bit of cabin yellow in it, and he's used light alongside the dark to make a description of fabric. So back to the pale blue. And they should be darker in there. This is a studio painting in that I think it's not being worked out, or it's not being painted spontaneously on the spot. It's possibly worked from drawings. And the reason I would say that is that this little passage here, for example, is interrupted or marked by contrast, which is quite precisely done. So this child is wearing a red top, and it's one of the reddest bits in the whole painting. So little, again, dabs or marks. And that red top appears in this gap here, which marks the separation of these two whites. Otherwise the whites would just merge into each other. There is a little bit of darker colour there too, not just the bright red. There's some other darker red dabbing on there, so it's not, again, it's not just one colour. And then the skin tone in these figures, which are perhaps tanned, is made up of several related colours, dabs of warmer and darker, red, ochre, yellow ochre, crimson, and also yellow, ochre, crimson and blue, I think, ultramarine. So that becomes quite dark. This becomes quite dark in contrast to the colour in the fabric. So light against dark. We come down this image again using little dabs. So that's built up one layer, and then he's possibly built this up on dry. He's put down one layer and then put down another layer. There are little bits of blue in this, little bits of blue here, little bits of blue in the hair on the boy. Quite long hair, and then also little dabs of reddish brown. Again, not just one colour. Different colours in the hair, but this is a dark hair, so that's a similar treatment with the reddish colour and the darker blue, or even brown. Perhaps that should be a little bit more brownish. Edge of the sleeve, that's somewhere there's more shadow. These are all paintings of sunlight and shadow, and so the light and the shade complement each other. You've got the two elements working together, light and dark. It may be an advantage to put down, say, one colour like this, and then a day or two later build up another layer of a slightly different colour. It may be because this technique of juxtaposing colours like this, that it is a little difficult, or doesn't quite work in practical terms to do all the colours together at the same time. Let's try and bring that down. So if we look at the foreground in this image, and the foreground is in dappled light, there's quite a lot of this reddish brown. I'll just do one little area. There's quite dappled pools of sunlight and shadow that would require building up. So it takes a degree of patience to build all this up in little marks. But starting with one colour, I can see that there is blue in there too. So there's some lighter blue. And there's the red, this sort of colour. And there's that effect built up, that little effect there is built up all through this foreground with patches of sunlight. So this is the language of paint for this particular theme or project. How we use colour, not as blended colour, but as separate little dabs and marks that mix in the eye from a little bit further away. So there should be another colour there, and the scale of the mark, the refinement of the scale of the mark makes a difference. The marks aren't too big, they gradually perhaps build up layer upon layer, become more refined. I need to darken this, I need to work into this passage here, for example, that's going to be a little bit darker. Skin tone, ochre and crimson. So skin tone in this case would be a warm ochre. That's ochre with a little bit of crimson in it, and that means that this is on his face here, for example. Allow some of the yellow ochre underpainting to come through. He has painted very carefully and precisely around these figures. He's painted much more loosely elsewhere. The figures and their features are treated quite differently. So it may be that you can start with a few general marks, but he has put a different level of attention onto these figures. So all the time I'm looking to maintaining light and shade. I'm looking to be consistent and keep the colour purity strong with this process. And it will take a while to build up all these marks all over the surface. See that I've got a lot more to do here. I would perhaps suggest not coming to detail too soon with this, that we don't get into this detail in figures and faces too early, because that's a distraction from the whole image, and the overall sense of light and shade is really what matters more, I think. He's drawn these objects here. So next time I'll have some more painted to this. I might even complete it. The idea is to use all these separate brushes and to keep the colours separate on here, and to maybe even test out colour somewhere else first and keep these colours related to each other, but not one colour, but several colours all related to each other.